Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello. I'll tell you what, it's going to be a little different episode, kind of a singular issue here, I guess, although, excuse me, it'll bounce around maybe a little bit. This has been bothering me, and it now everybody has to hear about it. I gotta tell you, and I know that I'm not the only one. We're all sort of living through this, and it's remarkably painful. But having to relive the entire COVID Psy-op 6 years later, after, of course, all of these revelations that we knew existed already at face value back then, are coming out now, whether they be Tony Fauci's diary or his text messages or phone calls or dialogues back and forth between people and whatever. And then, of course, everything that comes with that, all of the rehashing of all of the stories that everybody has experienced, and at the exact same time you have this one executive order, again being signed the other day, which I'll go over here in a little bit, combined with, of course, individuals continuing to get sick, continuing to die, people continuing to push shots and vaccinations on people at the same time, creating a new mRNA flu shot. Again, it's all a lot. It's just a lot. And I'm tired of it. And I think that one of the things that it's proving is that even with the D-class of all of this information and the accountability, which I think this is a step in the accountability, so I'll go so far as to say that, again, these people are being raked across the coals in the public eye right now. Whether the injected and the asleep want to know it or not, it's still happening. But it's just a lot to listen to. And again, it's not so much a I told you so, I was right, you were wrong kind of thing. Although, again, those feelings do come up from time to time. But it has more to do, I think, with the uncomfortable nature of the fact that this continues to exist. It hasn't gone away. I mean, it's like illegal immigration, for example. Our country is still being invaded, whether we have a wall or we don't, whether we have more wall or we don't. There are still illegals coming into our country. There are still more people coming into our country and less people leaving. I mean, if 5 some odd million people came in during the Biden administration, only 175,000 or so have left, allegedly. Again, I don't even know if those numbers are real or not, but it just feels like the same kind of thing. It's like, it's not that we're being gaslit even, it's just that this slow roll of all of this information that's coming out right now is just overwhelming. Again, it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's not. It's a very positive thing because, again, had it not been for certainly the Q operation and this administration and a number of things, we wouldn't even be here right now. We wouldn't even be having this conversation about all of this information, again, that's being declassed for people to finally wake up and finally see what's going on. But again, all of the information coming out the way that it is, with the ongoing wars still taking place at the same time, it's overwhelming. And it's just, again, it's exhausting. These text messages, again, with Tony Fauci talking about miscarriages and cytokine storms and all of it. I mean, it's too much. But I want to just play a little piece of audio here. And again, this is part of what is overwhelming about all of this, too, is the constant revisiting of all of the audio clips that people have had for 6 years. And now they're throwing them all back on social media for everybody to rewatch and relive. And at the same time, these new audio clips that are existing from all these news channels that were pushing the shots, which include news anchors who took the shots. And then they're even describing their ailments as a result of taking them. I mean, again, we haven't heard a single person in the media apologize for anything. Not even an apology. And that, of course, is the least of what we want, but not even an apology. It's just, again, it's overwhelming. Here's John Roberts. And yes, he's jabbed. Listen to what he says at the end of this clip. This was from just yesterday. Again, he actually says this. He says this on camera out loud. The dude has a pacemaker after getting boosted. But listen to what he says at the end in 3, 2, 1.
Breaking right now, Republican Senators Ron Johnson and Rand Paul releasing the first batch of text messages from Dr. Anthony Fauci's government iPhone. In one exchange from January of 2021, Fauci, then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky, and then Surgeon General Vivek Murthy discussed COVID vaccination and pregnant women. Fauci flags a potential concern after the second dose, writing that many people experience, quote, significant cytokine storm and fever, and that this, quote, theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. Walensky responds, quote, definitely a good point, especially after dose 2. A cytokine storm is essentially when the body releases too many inflammatory signals that could cause high fever, inflammation, and in extreme cases, life-threatening illness. So this is just coming to light now, Sandra, that Fauci had these concerns. And I remember when I got the boosters, I developed pericarditis, then that went away. Then when I had the second booster, it came roaring back again. So, the body reacts differently to these things depending on who you are.
It's, again, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. I just can't do it. I'm almost at a loss for words. Almost. But I have a microphone in front of my face, and it is a podcast, so I have to say something. John Roberts of Fox News is 4 deep. He's 4 shots deep. And he just admitted this on national television. He took 3 shots. In fact, I remember him like it was yesterday. In fact, I'll go even so far as to say this. I have his tweet from 2020 or 2021, right around that time, December, January, February, somewhere in there, could even be the spring of 2021. In the storm books that I put together, which again are free on my website, AmericanEducationFM.com, under the Storm Documents tab there. Anyway, in one of those 12 volumes, he actually tweeted out and he said, and I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, is anybody having any heart-related issues after taking the COVID shots, or is it just me? He tweets that, and then he goes back for more. And he just admitted, again, he has a pacemaker. He just admitted that he got pericarditis, inflammation of the pericardium, after the 3rd shot. And then he claims, well, and then it went away. No, it never goes away. When you have an inflammation of the heart, it's always inflamed. You can take anti-inflammatories, but if you stop taking the anti-inflammatories, your heart doesn't go back to normal. It becomes inflamed again. It's permanent heart damage. After that, he went back for a 4th shot. I can't draw up that level of retardation. And he just admitted it on national television. I mean, on one hand, I say, okay, thanks for the admission. Maybe people will listen to that. And they will sort of, heed the warning, I guess. And then they won't inject themselves with anything anymore. I mean, that would be nice. But on the other hand, I say, my God, look what your channel and your entire workplace environment did to you. And you allowed them to do it. You took those shots because your company said so. Your company killed you and made you ill. Again, John Roberts, pacemaker, 4 deep, pericarditis, myocarditis, the whole thing. He'll be dead in 6 years. If he was diagnosed with all of that stuff back in 2021, 2022, and then, of course, now has a pacemaker, again, 9 years, 10 years total for a heart condition like that is usually your lifespan. He'll be dead in 6 years. But how many more people in the media have openly admitted to this? All these revelations, again, spilling out. So-called news readers are having to actually relive this now. Even NFL players, I saw this the other day. It was a clip of Cam Newton, former quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, and I don't know who else, the New England Patriots, among others. Again, he openly admitted on either his show or someone else's show that NFL players were filling out fake vaccination cards, that they weren't taking the shots, that the vast majority of them probably were not taking the shots. Some of them actually were, clearly, Damar Hamlin being one of the more famous ones. Not to mention, again, the league is so big and those teams are so big that a person can disappear and no one would really know. I mean, a person could retire or just not be on the roster, and the reasons why wouldn't be known to the public because, of course, they would cover it up, and so would the NFL. Certainly if it was shot-related, which, again, at this point, why wouldn't it be? But he was openly saying that they were taking fake shots and that they were also, again, filling out fake vaccination cards and telling people, again, on their teams that they took the shots when in fact they didn't. And then quietly and in private, they would admit to one another that they faked the whole thing and they weren't taking them. Again, the Kirk Herbstreits of the world. His son has permanent heart damage as a result of this, one of his children. I've played that audio back on the show many years ago when he was on, I think, Pat McAfee's show talking about it. And again, he brushed it off. Well, you guys live in the internet world, and I don't really do that thing, so, some people just, blah, I'm stupid and whatever, and I don't think about things. I just put needles in my body, and I have blood clots too, and blah, blah, blah. What's he thinking right now? What's he and his family thinking right now? What are all these so-called, again, public figures thinking right now? What are they thinking? And why aren't they being vocal about anything? All these organizations, everybody's eating crow right now. Everybody's eating humble pie for dessert, and they're choking on it. It's absolutely incredible. Again, we knew that this would happen. It was only a matter of time. The aspect of it, though, that I did not necessarily anticipate was how taxing it was going to be on someone like me or someone like you, having to, again, hear all of this all over again. And basically, again, just relive all of this. I mean, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. it's shell shock. It's all of that stuff. It just all comes flooding back. And everybody probably throughout the nation right now, because I'm not the only one, people are reliving all of this. And again, some people are waking up, which is great, but some of those people who are waking up are still jabbed. They're still jabbed. And they still might experience some very horrific things down the line. And that's the aspect of it that is terrifying. It's terrifying. But again, it's just exhausting. And here's the other thing too. And I'm going to get into this now because again, it's in the same exact vein. But this is the kind of thing that for me personally, and again, I can't be the only person who feels this way, but it's exhausting because even with all of these revelations, we're basically seeing the exact same thing take place that happened back in 2020 and 2021, certainly when it came to people like myself included, who are on the internet trying to warn people about this. The same thing is happening all over again with this mFlusiva shot from Moderna. Again, it's an mRNA flu shot. All flu shots are poison because the flu doesn't exist. But even so, they're openly telling you that they're going to give you a COVID shot now as a flu shot. What do people not understand about this? There are people who still believe that the mRNA technology, quote unquote, which it's not technology, it's poison, it's just poison, that is somehow effective and that it works. Because this black, female, fake Jewish woman who's now the CDC director openly said under oath that she thinks that the mRNA technology is effective. That was Trump's pick for the CDC and quote-unquote the most qualified. Now, we know she's not the most qualified. But again, I think she was personally being hired for this position to fire her. Because if she actually believes any of that, she won't have that job much longer. Not, of course, with RFK at the helm. Because who do you think Trump is going to listen to? That woman or RFK? Dr. Schwartz, as it were, or RFK? He's going to listen to RFK. Those guys are attached to the hip, practically. But I also see, again, the psychological operation of what's happening here with rolling this out the way that it's being rolled out. It's not a bucket of cold water on everybody and then shutting everything down, which is what I want. That's the way that I would approach it. Just get it done with. But they're slow rolling this to basically bankrupt the pharmaceutical industry with the lack of participation and with more awareness. Again, it was just last week. You had people screaming all over these news channels, in particular CNN and others, openly saying again that the science is settled on vaccinations and they help and they work. I mean, it was Dana Bash and a bunch of other weirdos. And then, of course, RFK was screaming at her and saying that's not true, and she's saying yes, it is. And then it just becomes this, again, this shouting match. And they can't both be right. Again, who do you trust? A Dana Bash on CNN or RFK Jr.? A lawyer who's actually read the documents, looked into the history and the studies of all of these things. Again, I just got so frustrated with all of it that it ended up, it prompted me basically to just write another Substack article about this very thing and how the slow rolling of this information is so tiresome instead of just telling people the truth about what's really going on. And I understand, again, that if government does it or political officials do it, then not everybody, of course, is going to buy into it, and I understand that aspect. I also, of course, understand the aspect that we shouldn't be listening to politicians, frankly, about anything. I mean, we should be making up our own minds and doing our own research and our own reading and our own listening and investigations on our own all of the time. I fully understand that. And that's certainly something, again, that I do. But let's just cut to the chase. So much like the school board speech from many years ago, I just thought, okay, I'm just going to put together a very short Substack article and let's just cut to the chase. Let's just get down to brass tacks and stop all this kicking the can around, slowing down the vaccinations, which I'll get into that executive order in detail here in a minute, which it's a good executive order. And there are awesome provisions within it. Again, I'm not making fun of it. It's a fantastic thing. And I love that this is happening. But again, given the Substack article that I put together here, let's just cut to the chase. Because I'm tired of all of these people also on Substack putting out all of these articles about the influenza shot. I mean, it's nauseating. And as I say in my article, you might as well be writing an article about why you shouldn't eat horse shit. It should go without saying at this point. People shouldn't be, again, diving into the research and, oh, look, the study was flawed. No kidding. No kidding. No kidding, it was flawed. No kidding, the shots don't prevent anything. No kidding, it's just as bad as a flu shot, if not worse. No kidding. This shouldn't shock anyone at this point. Again, I like Tom Rentz. I do. Fellow Ohioan, I like him. But again, he's putting out all these articles about this and all these posts and, oh my gosh, the influenza shots, basically a revamped COVID. No kidding, it's a revamped COVID shot. No kidding, it is. We were saying this stuff, again, back in 2020 and 2021, that these kinds of quote-unquote technologies, poisons, were going to be ubiquitous. It would be in everything. So here we are. Now what? People are just writing these new articles. Look, it's now in the flu shots. I can't believe it. I can. I can. I was telling people this. all those years ago, and so were endless other people. You could see the writing on the wall. You're smart people. You knew this was coming too. But I'm going to read this article because, again, it's the shortest one I've ever written. I just titled it for fun, Moderna's Mflusiva. I figured I'd just use the title just because people will search it and they'll come across this article, and like I said, maybe it'll just slap them right across the face because they're completely retarded if they buy into any of this. Again, subtitle, the shortest Substack article I've ever written. I said, hi there. Now again, people will think that I wrote this angry. I didn't. I had a huge smile on my face and I was actually laughing as I was writing it. I said, hi there. If you're still taking any vaccination that exists on Earth today, then you're a fucking idiot. You will still get sick, and you will get sick, rather, and you will die from it. This isn't complicated. If you don't know this by now, then you have learned nothing over the last 6+ years, and you possess zero observational or critical thinking skills. You actually have an IQ below 70, making you an actual categorical moron. To all of the people writing huge Mflusiva articles on Substack right now, breaking down the numbers and diving into the studies of its ineffectiveness, you are accomplishing nothing. You might as well be writing 10-page articles about how horseshit tastes bad and why you shouldn't eat it. All of which should go without saying. Again, if you are foolish enough to take even one injection of anything for anything at this point in life, you are a part of natural selection and a thinning of the herd. You are being culled whether you know it or not. If you inject yourself before pregnancy, during pregnancy, or after pregnancy, or you inject your baby at any point in their life, you will make yourself and your child sick and dead. It's that simple. Vaccines are not preventative medicines for a condition or a virus, quote unquote. They are a poison that accompanies a fairy tale about an invisible enemy that doesn't even exist. The flu doesn't exist, COVID doesn't exist, HIV doesn't exist. Neither do the other conditions that have different names. These names or conditions are only labels that are given to symptoms of being poisoned, most of which are caused by a vaccine or multiple vaccines that a person takes or other poisons they ingest. Autism, Parkinson's, measles, mumps, rubella, asthma, earaches, Alzheimer's, ALS, etc., etc., etc. Pick a name. It doesn't matter. They're all caused by vaccinations and other environmental poisons. All of the tests for these so-called viruses are also fake. If you bought one in a store, took one, and then believed the so-called result, then you're retarded. If you're a doctor or a nurse, and you still inject anyone with any vaccines or injection of any kind at this stage of reality, you are a murderer. If anyone so much as even suggests that children should still receive any vaccinations or any human of any age should receive any vaccinations, then those people are murderers too. If you are a school and you force any shot on students to attend your brainwashing camp, you're a categorical moron and a murderer. If you hold COVID or flu shot events at your school or in your district, you are poisoning people, making them sick, and killing them. Then I just wrapped it up and I said, stop beating around the bush on this issue. This issue, is settled. Call it what it is. You've been lied to. And then I said, I have reasons to be mad, so do you. That is all. God bless and have a lovely day. Galatians 6:7, be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Unquote. I had a listener of the show here, I believe on Rumble, reach out in the comments section and thank me for saving their life. Again, it's overwhelming. All of this is just so overwhelming because it's such a massive psychological operation that has killed copious amounts of people. And I'm certain that I've saved lives by saying particular things, that you've saved lives by saying particular things, by stopping particular people from doing particular things. We've all done it. But just like, again, any war, any like physical, real, kinetic war here, which again, to an extent, this certainly is. It's not a bang-bang kind of war in the traditional sense that people think of. But much like individuals who come back from those particular operations, regardless of the level of good that they've done, they still have to live with the consequences of particular actions and witnessing particular things and hearing particular things and just, I mean, everything that goes with it. It's not like watching an Anthony Fauci hang from a tree would make all of these feelings just go away. It would help, but it wouldn't make anything really go away. I like the fact, again, that he's being driven around by his wife, who's also a murderer, as she's flipping people off and giving the finger to cameramen and women who are taking pictures of him as they take out their trash. I like that these people can't walk down the street. But it doesn't make our experiences go away. We relive them constantly. And again, I'll be blunt. I mean, right now, I feel like it's 2020 and 2021 all over again. I really do. It feels like that. It's a different side of the table, so to speak, but it's still the same table. That's why, again, sort of the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and all of that stuff. I mean, all of that comes flooding back every single time that there's a new revelation where I sit back and I go, I already knew that. What do you mean Anthony Fauci was lying to the public? I mean, are people really surprised about this? They're really shocked that a psychopath would lie? That he would say one thing in a text message and then say something else to the general public? We need Deborah Birx to be pleading the fifth. The Scarf Queen. We need her pleading the fifth. We need Rochelle Walensky pleading the fifth. Because they'll have to. Because what they're not going to do is they're not going to throw Anthony Fauci under the bus, even though those text messages of them contradicting one another, Rochelle Walensky telling everybody that, again, regardless of the stage of pregnancy, that if you're even thinking about getting pregnant, you should still get a COVID shot, and saying all of that with her huge nose and her giant witch smile. Saying all of that on endless shows, on endless podcasts, and then again, showing concern privately in text messages and saying maybe we need to slow down on the booster shots because some people are getting hurt. Yeah, I want her pleading the fifth in front of Congress. Subpoena all of those people. Subpoena those women. It's not just Anthony Fauci. Subpoena Anthony Fauci's wife. Christine Grady is as guilty as anybody else. She was pushing this also while running cover for her husband. Again, where are the other congressional and senatorial subpoenas? Where are they? Subpoena these people, all of them, and make them all come in and plead the fifth. Like I said, they're not going to admit anything. They're not going to admit that they contradicted themselves. And they're not going to admit that they lied to the public. And they're not going to throw Anthony Fauci, like I said, under the bus. They're not going to throw one another under the bus. They will just be forced to listen to the questions that anybody at this stage of the game who's knowledgeable could ask them. And then they will be forced to take the fifth. They all have lawyers, I guarantee it. They have to. But bring them in anyway. Rake them over the coals. The American public needs to watch these so-called medical leaders not want to answer a single question. It'll be great. But it has to happen. I understand everybody's on vacation right now. Terrible timing. But this has to happen. And again, if this is going to happen after the midterms or whatever, yes, it needs to happen. Because again, what is the political left going to say in this country? They're going to say the same thing they said with Anthony Fauci when he was pleading the fifth. They're going to say, well, we don't need to relive this. We don't need to relive all of this and relitigate all of this. Yes, we do. We do, actually. Again, as painful as it is for all of us, myself included, we have to go through this. We have to slug through all of this. But let's do it. Because the part of this, again, that got lost on me too, is that the accountability aspect of this just wouldn't be easy. We all thought that it would be 100% easy. Again, watching individuals get raked over the coals publicly and new revelations and, again, the results of investigations and everything else. Things that we suspected were always happening and things that we knew that were always happening are now finally being reported by the very people who were hiding it in the first place. Again, as entertaining to an extent as that is, the reality of it is that it is remarkably painful. Again, very famously, Scott Adams, who took the COVID shots and died as a result. Long, painful death. Cancer all over his body, the whole thing. Very famously, again, back on his show, he openly said, "You guys won. You won. All the people who didn't take the shots, you won." And I openly played that audio on the show, and I openly disagreed with him. It's not a game. Everybody loses. Everybody loses in this. Therefore, it's not a game, because that's not what happens in a game. There are winners and losers. But for this, regarding humanity as a whole, everyone loses, because we have to live through this also. The uninjected have to live through this and watch everything transpire also. And then we have to watch what has yet to come. And that's painful too. Again, I understand the slow rolling of this information for the normies. I get it. I understand it for the people that don't take the time to think, to learn, to read, anything. And again, if anybody's doubting anything that I've said, I will always highly recommend this documentary. Yes, you can go back and watch all of the Stu Peters documentaries, all of them. You can watch the Water, Died Suddenly, you name it. Those documentaries exist. There's a massive list of documentaries on my website under the medical documents tab that you can take a look at. Huge PDF of documentaries with the hyperlinks that'll take you right to them. But the one that I think, again, everybody should watch is The Viral Delusion. It's at least a 4 to 5 part documentary. Each episode is at least 2 hours long. It's worth it. It was put together back again in 2021. Didn't get a lot of play, didn't get a ton of movement. It did back in the day when it was completed. But when it comes to the lie of virology and Anthony Fauci and medicine and you name it, that's a winner. That's one that everybody should watch. Now, before I get into the executive order, I'm just going to go through this again just to highlight the hypocrisy, because again, I understand it's obvious, it's at face value. Everybody already knows this, certainly we do. But let me read just a couple of these text messages here and then play one audio clip from Anthony Fauci. These particular text messages, again, primarily surround themselves around the business of pregnancy. So let me get the dates on these, because again, it was coming out sort of fast and furious here. You've got some PM text messages, and then, they stretch throughout the PM here. So there's this one. It's from Anthony Fauci. Again, sent to, I'm not sure who, it doesn't say exactly, but it says, agree with Rochelle. So he's agreeing with the CDC director. There are no data or theoretical reasons to believe that vaccinating early versus later in pregnancy would be preferred. Because again, she was saying, you can take the shots if you're even thinking about getting pregnant while you're pregnant or after you're pregnant. You can shoot up anybody you want. That's what she was openly on television saying. He goes on, he says, yet some people, even female healthcare professionals, feel concerned about injecting a genetic, quote unquote, vaccine very early in pregnancy. There is this misperception out there that we need to deal with that mRNA somehow can, quote, get into your genes, unquote. When the misperception gets extended to an early developing fetus, the anxiety heightens. He's trying to control the emotions of people in all of this, not just actually look at evidence, because there was no evidence. That's why. They're operating on feelings and emotion. He then texted later, 2 hours later. In fact, if I can get these timestamped correctly, there was that one. Okay, that first one was at 4:56 p.m. There was this one, which was 6 minutes earlier, from a Dr. Murthy to Dr. Fauci, where the guy said again, Tony, Rochelle, did you see the announcement today from WHO saying they advise against pregnant women taking the Moderna vaccine because of a lack of data? It has led to a flurry of questions. What is your take? I imagine we will all get asked about this. And then, of course, Anthony Fauci responded in the post that I've read right there at the beginning. Then he responded later, around 6 p.m., 6:45 p.m., he said, I asked around a bit more, and another issue came up that you need to be aware of. Since many people have significant cytokines storm and fever after the second dose, this theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. Theoretically, he said. It's astounding. This too, by the way, part of the fairy tale when it comes to pregnancy. And, as you'll hear Anthony Fauci openly say to this woman here in this audio clip in a second, he openly says, well, kids die in utero all of the time. It just happens. It just happens because it just happens. Women can get sick and they can get a cold and the flu and blah, blah, blah. And then, they can just have a miscarriage. And that happens frequently. Saying all of that hides the fact that vaccinations cause it. Again, it's not just anything and everything that can cause a woman to lose a child in utero. It's not just that's the world we live in. I mean, that's not a scientific explanation. And feelings about it, it just happens and it just happens. Again, that's not a scientific explanation. There are causes for things, cause and effect. But he goes on here in the text message. This is the last one again that's kind of been making the rounds, although there are many others, I'm sure. This Dr. Murthy guy, I think he was from the FDA, if I'm not mistaken. But this was from the day before, and he said, this is really helpful, thanks. I've been hearing the concern about the mRNA causing mutations in the developing fetus as well. That's a really good point regarding the cytokine storm post-second dose. Again, it's an admission. It's an admission that it's causing a poisonous immune response, and the immune response, again, is brought on by being poisoned, and that they're openly talking about this. But here's Anthony Fauci talking to a female podcaster about it, and he doesn't seem to have any concerns. He just passes it off as basically not a concern at all. Give him a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Tons of them on what to expect, not surprisingly, about COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccines, especially about safety during pregnancy. And the vaccine, as you know, is strongly recommended by the CDC, by ACOG, by the Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine for all pregnant women. And yet, vaccine hesitancy has been especially high among pregnant women, and the CDC has reported that vaccination rates are really low compared to the general population among pregnant women. And of course, we all understand pregnancy and worry go together, right? But I'm still hoping you can explain to concerned moms and dads-to-be, and as a father yourself, why you are so confident that the vaccine is safe and effective to get when you're pregnant, and why should moms not worry so much?
Well, even though this is an issue and a problem that all of us, including myself, when my wife was pregnant with my 3 daughters, I got nervous about everything.
I'm sure you did.
Even as an informed physician, I was always concerned about anything that could have a deleterious effect on my pregnant wife as well as on our soon-to-be-born baby.
Yeah.
So that's totally understandable. But the best way to explain that is to look at the facts that are really well known. Mm-hmm. And you balance these facts about risk versus benefit. The overwhelming balance of risk benefit is in favor of pregnant women getting vaccinated against COVID-19. And the reason for that is, look at what we know for sure. What we know for sure, that if a pregnant woman gets infected and gets COVID-19, there are serious consequences for the pregnant woman herself, for the pregnancy, and for the fetus. Mm-hmm. If you look at it, preterm births, all kinds of complications that are exacerbated in a pregnant woman. Then you ask the question, well, are the vaccines safe? And if you look at the literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of women who have been followed by the CDC, who were vaccinated when they were pregnant, there's no indication whatsoever that there's any increase of any adverse issues in a pregnant woman who was vaccinated compared to a pregnant woman who wasn't vaccinated. And we all know that pregnancy, there is always a risk of a spontaneous miscarriage. There's always a situation. There's always situations when women get illness. There could be preeclampsia, things like that. However, when you look at the unvaccinated versus the vaccinated, there is absolutely no increased risk of that. So because of that, the CDC and the ACOG, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, who used to say it is okay for pregnant women to get vaccinated, to change now and say it is recommended that pregnant women get vaccinated. So it's really one of those things that's kind of not a close call. It really is pretty clear that pregnant women should get vaccinated.
He said all of that with zero evidence. No evidence whatsoever. It's literally people talking over text messages just to agree on a line of inquiry and what answer to provide when being asked questions. That's it. It's not complicated, but it certainly isn't science. Just feelings. The woman's voice, by the way, that you heard there, her name is Heidi Murkoff. She was the host of that particular show that he was on called What to Expect, based out of Southern California. She's a complete fool, and yes, she took the COVID shots. On October 5th of 2023, she posted on X, formerly Twitter, quote, "Done and done. Barred both my arms today, which means I am armed for virus season. Hashtag flu vaccine, hashtag COVID vaccine," along with a photo of herself. Well, isn't that nice? She's still alive, apparently. But, yeah, there you go. Anyway, let's move on to the executive order here. Delivering gold standard childhood vaccine recommendations for Americans. Again, I wish it was zero. But we're moving in that direction. And this is part of the D class. Again, we wouldn't even be at this stage if this D class wasn't taking place and this administration wasn't allowing for this. So it goes on and it says the order states that HHS completed a scientific assessment prompted by the 2025 memorandum, finding that the United States recommends more childhood vaccines in doses than peer-developed countries. In some cases, more than twice as many as certain European nations. It identifies consensus vaccines recommended across peer nations and notes that those countries often rely more on public trust and education than mandates. The order declares it U.S. policy to align core childhood vaccine recommendations with scientific evidence and peer country best practices, there we go, while preserving access to available vaccines, maximizing parental choice, personal autonomy, and informed consent, and protecting religious liberty and parental authority. It frames the changes as gold standard childhood vaccine recommendations, quote unquote. The core recommendations, again, unfortunately, they're still recommending for all children measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, polio, pneumococcal diseases, human papillomavirus, and chickenpox. Again, there's no need for any of them. But this new revised list, again, reduces the prior universal recommendation list, previously around 17 to 18 diseases per CDC schedule referenced in reporting, to these 11. So again, they've removed some, which is better than not removing any, but even so, at this stage of the game, if anybody is listening to government about what to put into their body, you've lost your mind. Now again, here's the parental choice and enforcement measure. It says the Attorney General is directed to take appropriate measures to further meritorious legal actions, challenging state laws that conflict with constitutional and federally statutory obligations on parental authority, religious freedom specifically, disability accommodations, and equal protection, including, to the extent applicable under federal law, states' obligations to provide religious and medical exemptions from childhood-adolescent immunization requirements. Therefore, states legally, like New York, for example, cannot force vaccinations on children to attend their terrible schools. They can't do it. Just because Hochul signed something into law doesn't make it legal. Again, she signed into law that religious exemptions wouldn't even count when it came to not taking vaccinations to attend schools. But again, that's not legal. Again, this is a good move, but it essentially means that if anybody is denied entry into a school, certainly as a result of this executive order, then they're violating the law. Now, fortunately, again, here in the state of Ohio, if a person is foolish enough to send their children to an actual brick-and-mortar public school, you can still, again, send your children without taking a vaccination. You don't even have to say too much as to why. You just fill out a form, you look up the actual Ohio law, which an AI system can do it for you. It's less than one page, it's just a couple of paragraphs, and then you send it to your school, and then that's it. Again, it's even for sports. They don't have to be injected for anything. They don't have to be injected to jump from one grade to the next, play a particular sport, play a second sport, whatever it is. You just hand them this form, and it says that your child is exempt from taking any vaccinations whatsoever for anything, no matter what. Again, the simple fact that, and again, this is one of the most ridiculous fairy tales of all. The whole fairy tale having to do with how unvaccinated children are the ones making the vaccinated sick. Remember that one? That was always the ongoing fairy tale. If you don't get the shots, then you're going to make people sick. Well, again, the exact opposite is true. It's the people who are injecting themselves with the poison. They're the ones getting sick. It's not the people who aren't injected with the poison. They're not making anybody sick. In fact, the uninjected do get sick from the injected. That happens all of the time, and admittedly so on the package inserts of flu shots. I've brought that up numerous times on the show. That's still a thing. Imagine what the shedding is going to be like, even if, again, they live long enough to actually shed on anybody. But imagine what the shedding is going to be like for the mFlusiva shots that Moderna has now put out, that are mRNA injections. The shedding of that is going to be massive. So, again, buckle up. This fall, brick-and-mortar schools, colleges, universities, and K-12, they're going to have a boatload of illness, guaranteed. Stick your ear up into the air and you'll hear that meat wagon cruising around town picking up bodies in a town near you. I guarantee it. Now here's outgoing Senator Bill Cassidy from North Carolina, and he, of course, is a medical doctor and wants to remind everybody that he's a medical doctor and that Donald Trump is wrong when it comes to reducing the amount of vaccinations that children should be recommended to receive by the medical establishment. He took to X and he said the following, quote, "I'm a doctor. This executive order is wrong. The president does not have the expertise to make these changes. Vaccines are overwhelmingly safe. Vaccines are effective. Vaccines do not cause autism. Breaking up vaccines will mean children have to get more shots to get the same protection, not fewer shots. It will increase hesitancy and make children less safe. Parents should listen to their child's pediatrician about vaccines rather than listening to an inaccurate executive order. This is so wrong, unquote. To which I responded and said, you're completely retarded. Again, Bill Cassidy is blackmailed and owned. Medical doctor, fine. No one cares. You're an idiot. How many people has he injected? How many people has he killed? Again, I bet his life review, if he makes his way to heaven, being a complete, total piece of trash, I bet his life review is going to be real painful. Because he's going to see all the damage that he's done throughout his entire career. And it's going to just flood him. And he's not going to have a choice but to look at it. He'll be forced to look at it. But that's the voice of a man who is in complete denial, 100%. I'm a doctor, you're wrong, I'm right. I know more than you do, and you know less than I do. Trust me when I say this, you should always trust your doctors, I'm a doctor. No one says that. No clear-thinking person ever says that. They don't talk that way. Robots talk that way. Robots that don't want to look in the mirror, and robots, again, that don't want to admit when they're wrong. Some people throughout this process, again, they're going to dig in like ticks. They're not going to move. They're going to take the wrong stance right to the bitter end. They will stand firm in their inability to recognize the truth. And they won't budge. But other people, again, are budging. The only thing that I would ask is that you don't forget who your enemy is. And these people are everywhere. They're the Dr. Drews of the world also. They're the Megyn Kellys of the world also. These people lined up and took these shots and told people to do the same. They're jab injured also. I mean, again, they've got to sift through all this information just like everybody else. But watching them try to backtrack and still try to take the moral high ground is beyond disgusting. Because again, in the positions that they had, when they had them during the whole COVID lie, which still continues to this day, they were again telling people what to do. Even listening to Robert Malone backtrack is disgusting, because he was telling people to take the shots, and then I called him out, and then a few other people did, and then he was like, well, not everybody has to take them. It's not recommended for kids. Again, I remember that audio clip like it was yesterday when he was on Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News. It's not recommended for kids, and I don't think healthy teenagers or children need to take it, but the elderly should take it. And that's what he said when he was on his show. And then he backtracks from that. See, that's not science either. That's not science either. Well, some of you can take it, but some of you don't have to. I don't have any explanation for that. I'm just saying it just because it hits me right in the feels, and that's about all I need to say. And, just trust me because I'm a medical doctor. How about you just not inject yourself with anything? How about that? How about you just get out in the sun, exercise, eat right, do the right things? How about you just do that? The medical advice from real doctors, the real medical advice, was lacking throughout that entire time. And now again, those people are jab injured. Bob Malone himself also. Megyn Kelly, same thing. I have autoimmune conditions. Feel bad for me. You did it to yourself. We don't have to feel bad for you. So don't hesitate to get in the comments section online with some of these people. I mean, do it. If they're making posts about these things, remind them of the stance that they took. Remind them that they're jab injured if you want to. I mean, you can rub it in, I suppose. Or you can just remind them that they were wrong. And that they fell for it. And they gave terrible advice to endless people, their own friends, their family members, themselves, the people around them, their coworkers. The humble pie that they're eating right now, again, they're going to choke on it. It's just too much for them to handle. Sad part, like I said at the very top, is we have to watch all of this too. We have to relive all of this also. So it's not going to stop. This is going to continue. But again, we get mad, we get to be frustrated, we get to do all of that. And we get to remind people that they were dead wrong. and that their actions had serious consequences and life-altering consequences, including the so-called conservative voices on radio and podcasting platforms. They were in on it also. But again, we're moving in a good direction here. We're moving slowly, but we're moving in a good direction. These are conversations that, again, would not have been taking place if Donald Trump wasn't in office and surrounding himself with the right people. It just wouldn't be the case. These would not have happened. So there is certainly, again, an operation that is taking place. We are certainly living through a great awakening and an apocalypse and a lifting of the veil. And as painful as that is, and again, that's sort of the unforeseen pain in all of this, is that we have to relive a great deal of this from time to time and continue to witness individuals that are around us just make horrible, horrible decisions about all of this still to this day. So, again, there's going to be consequences with all of this accountability, no doubt about it. And unfortunately, some of that backs up on a lot of us who just have to relive it. But if that's part of it, then so be it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening as always, and I'll catch you on Friday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.